While I lay in a hospital bed, weak and struggling to breathe, my own son leaned close to me. His voice was cold as he whispered, "Sign this, or lose everything." He thought I was too weak to answer, but I turned my head to the nurse and said, "Call the lawyer now. If you want to hear how I fought for my home and my family when my own son tried to take it away, subscribe to the channel and tell me in the comments where you're watching from." My name is Margaret Hale, and I am 68 years old. I have worked my whole life, side by side with my late husband, to build a home and a future for our children. We did not come from wealth, but through hard work and sacrifice, we saved enough to leave something behind for them. When my husband passed away, I became the guardian of everything we had built. Now here I was, lying in a hospital bed after a sudden health scare. My body felt fragile, but my mind was still sharp. Every day my daughter Emily came to visit me. She brought fresh flowers, read books by my side, and reminded me that family is about love and loyalty. She gave me comfort in my darkest hours, but not everyone came with love in their heart. My son Daniel visited less often, and when he did, his eyes were always on the papers, the property, and the money. Instead of asking about my health, he asked about documents, deeds, and accounts. I tried to push away the unease, telling myself he was just worried about responsibilities. But deep down, I felt the change in him. He was no longer the boy I raised. He had grown into a man who wanted control, no matter the cost. That night, when he stood over me with papers in his hand, I knew my fears had come true. My son was ready to take everything, even if it meant pressuring me while I was too weak to stand. But he did not expect me to still have the strength to fight back. The room was dim, filled with the soft beeping of hospital machines and the steady drip of medicine into my arm. I could hear the shuffle of nurses in the hallway, the occasional creak of a cart rolling past. But inside my room, it felt like the world had stopped. My son Daniel stood over me, his shoulders squared, his face tense, clutching a folder of papers as if his entire life depended on them. He leaned close, his breath hot against my ear, and whispered, "Sign this, or lose everything." At first I thought I had misheard. How could my own son, the boy I carried for 9 months, the boy whose scraped knees I once kissed better, be threatening me while I lay weak in a hospital bed? My chest tightened, not just from illness, but from heartbreak. His words cut deeper than any wound my body had suffered. I looked at the papers in his hands. They were legal documents, filled with pages I could not see clearly from the bed, but I understood enough. He wanted me to hand over control of my home, my savings, everything my late husband and I had built. He wanted me to sign it all away while I was too sick to fight back. "Daniel," I whispered, my voice strained. "What are you doing? Why would you bring this here?" His jaw tightened. "Because if you don't sign, Mom, it could all be lost. The house, the land, everything. You'll ruin it for Emily too. You think she knows how to handle money? You're protecting her, but you're really just holding her back. I'm the one who can manage this. Sign the papers and stop being stubborn." Hearing him speak about his sister that way broke me. Emily had been nothing but loyal, nothing but loving. She had come every day to sit with me, to hold my hand when the nights felt long and cold. She never once asked about money. She only asked how I was feeling. Yet Daniel wanted to cut her out of everything, painting her as weak just to make himself look strong. I shook my head as best I could, though my body felt heavy. "No, Daniel, this isn't right. These are lies you're telling yourself." He slammed the folder onto the little hospital table by my bed, the sound echoing louder than I expected in the quiet room. "You think you know what's best, but you don't. You're sick, Mom. You're not thinking straight. Just sign the papers and make it easy." The sting of his words left me trembling. I was sick, yes. My body was failing me, but my mind was still clear. He thought he could use my weakness against me. He thought I was too frail to resist him. Nurse Claire, who had been checking charts nearby, stepped into the room just then. She paused, sensing the tension. Her sharp eyes landed on the folder, then on my frightened face. She spoke carefully. "Is everything all right here?" Daniel straightened quickly, plastering a fake smile across his face. Yes, just some family paperwork. Nothing serious. But Claire wasn't fooled. She lingered, moving slowly as though giving me the chance to speak. I met her eyes, and for a moment I felt the smallest spark of hope. Maybe I wasn't as alone as I thought. Daniel leaned down again, lowering his voice, but keeping his tone harsh. Don't make a scene, Mom. Just sign it. No one needs to know. If you don't, you'll regret it. I promise you that those words sent a chill through me. I had never heard my son sound so cold, so threatening. I wanted to cry, but I forced myself to stay calm. Inside, my heart was breaking. This was not the boy I had raised with love and patience. This was a man blinded by greed, willing to scare his own mother into giving him everything. The beeping of the heart monitor quickened, betraying my fear. Daniel noticed and smirked slightly, as if my panic gave him the upper hand. He pushed the pen into my hand, curling my weak fingers around it. Do it, Mom. Right now. Sign. For a moment, my hand hovered over the paper. My body felt weak, my strength slipping. I could almost hear Daniel's voice in my head, telling me I had no choice. But then another voice rose above his, my husband's, steady and calm, reminding me of the promises we had made to protect our children equally, to build a legacy that could never be stolen. I let the pen fall to the floor. Daniel's eyes flashed with anger, but I met his stare with as much strength as I could gather. No, Daniel. Not like this. The room grew heavy with silence. Nurse Claire stepped closer, placing a hand on my shoulder. She spoke firmly. Do you want me to call someone, Mrs. Hale? My throat was dry, but I managed to whisper, yes. Call the lawyer. Daniel stepped back, his face twisted with shock and fury. He hadn't expected me to fight back. He hadn't expected the frail old woman in the bed to still have the will to resist. That night, lying in my hospital bed, with my son's betrayal hanging in the air, I realized the battle was only beginning. I lay in that hospital bed, with my son's angry face looming over me and the papers still sitting on the table. The betrayal burned deeper than the illness that had brought me there. My body felt weak, but something inside me had shifted. I had spent years letting Daniel think he could get away with his careless behavior because I didn't want to lose him. I told myself he would change, that he would grow out of his selfishness. But that night, when he shoved those papers into my hands and threatened me, I understood something painful and true. If I stayed silent, I would lose far more than money. I would lose myself, and I would lose the future my husband and I had worked so hard to protect for Emily. I looked at the nurse, standing quietly at the edge of the room. She was waiting, her eyes steady, her presence strong but gentle. She was giving me a chance to speak, and I took it. My voice cracked, but I forced the words out. Call the lawyer. Now the look on Daniel's face was priceless. For the first time that night, his confidence faltered. He had been so sure I was too weak, too scared, too tired to resist. His mouth fell open in shock before he quickly tried to recover. Mom, stop this nonsense. You don't need a lawyer. You need to think clearly. You're sick, and you don't know what's best for yourself anymore. I lifted my chin, ignoring the pain that shot through my body. No, Daniel. I know exactly what's best. What's best is not letting greed destroy this family. Claire stepped forward and picked up the phone on the wall. Daniel lunged toward her, his voice rising. Don't you dare call anyone. This is a family matter. But Claire didn't even flinch. She stared at him firmly. Sir, threatening a patient is not a family matter. If you don't calm down, I'll call security before I call the lawyer. Daniel's face flushed red, his jaw tightening as he realized the situation was no longer in his control. He turned back to me, lowering his voice, but not his anger. Why are you doing this to me? After everything I've done, after all the years I've been waiting to take care of things, you're going to humiliate me like this? I stared at him, my heart aching. I raised you to be better than this. You chose this path, Daniel, not me. The silence between us was heavy, broken only by the steady beep of the heart monitor beside me. For years, I had been afraid to confront him, worried that if I pushed too hard, he would walk away from me completely. But as I lay there, I realized that I was more afraid of what would happen if I didn't stand up now. Moments later, Emily walked into the room, carrying a small bag of fruit and flowers. She froze when she saw Daniel towering over me, his face twisted with anger. "What's going on here?" she asked, her voice sharp with suspicion. Daniel turned, forcing another fake smile. "Nothing, just some paperwork Mom needed to sign." I was helping her. Emily looked at me, her eyes narrowing. She had always been able to read me like a book. "Mom, is that true?" I shook my head slowly, tears filling my eyes. "No, Emily." He wanted me to sign everything away. He thought I wouldn't have the strength to say no. Emily's face turned pale before her expression hardened into fury. She dropped the bag onto the chair and stepped between me and her brother. "How dare you, Daniel? She's lying in a hospital bed, and you're trying to take everything from her? From us?" Daniel tried to brush her off. "You don't understand. I'm the one who can handle this. You just waste it all. I'm protecting her." Emily's voice rose with anger. "No, you're protecting yourself. You don't care about Mom or Dad's memory or this family. You care about control, and you're not going to get it." Her words hit him harder than mine ever could. For a moment, Daniel was speechless, caught between his sister's rage and my refusal to bend. He had come into that room believing he could scare me into silence, but instead he found two women standing against him, one frail in body but strong in will, the other fierce and unafraid to speak the truth. Claire hung up the phone after making the call and walked back to my bedside. She placed her hand gently on my arm. "The lawyer is on his way, Mrs. Hale. You don't have to worry. You did the right thing." Daniel cursed under his breath, pacing the floor like a trapped animal. "You're making a mistake, Mom. You'll regret this." But I didn't regret it. For the first time in years, I felt a spark of pride in myself. I had chosen to fight, even when my body wanted to give up. I had chosen to protect what mattered most. I turned to Emily, who stood tall beside me, and whispered, "We're stronger than he thinks." She nodded, gripping my hand tightly. "Always, Mom, always." That night, as the hospital lights flickered in the hallway and the clock ticked steadily on the wall, I knew the battle wasn't over. The lawyer was on his way, and a confrontation was coming. But for the first time, I didn't feel powerless. I had taken the first step to stand my ground, and that decision would change everything. The hospital room felt heavy with tension, the kind that makes the air thick and hard to breathe. Daniel paced by the window, running his hands through his hair, while Emily stayed planted firmly at my side, holding my hand. Nurse Claire remained close, her presence steady, her eyes never leaving Daniel. I lay there, my body weak, but my spirit stronger than it had been in years. I had chosen to fight, and now the moment of truth was approaching. The door opened with a quiet click, and in walked Mr. Whitman, the family lawyer who had served us faithfully for decades. He was a tall man with silver hair and calm eyes that carried the weight of experience. Just seeing him brought me a wave of relief. I remembered the promises my late husband and I had made to each other, how we had carefully planned our future to protect our children. We had trusted Mr. Whitman to safeguard those promises, and now he was here to defend them. Daniel straightened, forcing a tight smile. "Mr. Whitman, good. You can help us. Mom's been confused, and she needs to sign these papers so we don't lose everything." He grabbed the folder from the table and shoved it forward. "It's the only way." Mr. Whitman didn't take the folder. Instead, he set his briefcase down on the chair and adjusted his glasses. His voice was calm but firm. "Daniel, I've already reviewed those papers. I know exactly what they are. They are a power of attorney document that would transfer full control of your mother's finances, assets, and property into your hands. And I also know you've been pressuring her to sign them." Daniel's face darkened. "That's not true. I'm just trying to help her. She's sick. She doesn't understand how serious this is." Emily stepped forward, her voice sharp. "Don't lie, Daniel. I heard you. You threatened her. You said she would lose everything if she didn't sign." The room grew tense. Daniel's eyes darted between us, searching for a way out, but Mr. Whitman's gaze stayed fixed on him. unshakable. "Daniel," he said slowly, "your mother and father planned for this long before today. Their estate has been secured in a living trust. That trust ensures both you and your sister will be treated fairly. Nothing is at risk. The only thing you risk now is your integrity, and perhaps even your freedom." Daniel's head snapped up. "What are you talking about?" Mr. Whitman pulled out a file from his briefcase and laid it on the small table by my bed. He opened it carefully, revealing documents with signatures and legal seals. "I have records showing that you attempted to move funds from one of your mother's accounts without authorization. The bank flagged it and reported it. I'm here not only as her lawyer, but also to warn you. Any further attempts to manipulate her into signing away, her rights will be considered financial abuse. And that, Daniel, is a crime." Daniel's face drained of color. For the first time, the confidence slipped completely from him. His mouth opened as if to argue, but no words came out. The silence was filled only by the steady beep of the heart monitor beside me. I pushed myself up slightly in the bed, my voice trembling but steady. "Daniel, I gave you everything I could. I believed in you even when you gave me reasons not to. But tonight, you showed me who you truly are. You tried to take advantage of my weakness, but you forgot that I am still your mother, and I am not powerless." Emily squeezed my hand tighter, tears brimming in her eyes. "Mom, you don't have to say anything more. We all see the truth." Now Daniel finally found his voice, but it was no longer strong. It cracked as he stammered. I just wanted to make sure everything was handled right. "I didn't mean," Mr. Whitman cut him off. "You meant exactly what you did, Daniel. And your mother deserves better than this. If you continue down this path, you won't just lose her trust, you could face legal consequences." The guests in nearby rooms must have overheard, because I noticed a nurse pause at the door, listening in with wide eyes. The humiliation on Daniel's face was plain. His plan had crumbled, and his lies had been exposed. I looked at him one last time, my heart breaking but resolute. "You will always be my son, Daniel. But love does not mean surrender. I will not let you steal what your father and I built for this family, and I will not let you destroy your sister's future out of greed." He stood frozen for a moment, then turned sharply toward the door. His footsteps echoed down the hall as he stormed out, leaving the folder of useless papers behind. The moment he was gone, the room seemed lighter. Emily leaned down and hugged me tightly, her tears finally spilling onto my shoulder. "You were incredible, Mom. You didn't let him win." Nurse Claire smiled softly, relief on her face. "You're stronger than most people realize. Tonight, you showed it." Mr. Whitman closed his file and nodded at me with respect. "You did the hardest part, Margaret. You stood your ground. That's something no piece of paper can ever take away." As I sank back against the pillows, exhausted but at peace, I realized I had not just protected money or property. I had protected my dignity, my daughter's security, and the memory of my husband. Daniel had thought he could corner me when I was at my weakest, but instead I proved I was stronger than he ever believed. When the door closed behind Daniel, the silence in the hospital room felt like a gift. The tension that had pressed on my chest for hours lifted, replaced by a calm I hadn't felt in years. I leaned back against my pillows, letting the sound of the machines and the faint chatter in the hallway remind me that life was still moving forward. My body was weak, but my spirit was steady. I had faced my son's betrayal head-on, and for the first time in a long time, I felt peace in knowing I had not allowed him to win. Emily sat beside me, her hand wrapped around mine, her eyes red from tears. She whispered, "Mom, I can't believe he tried to do that to you." "I don't know how you stayed so strong." I smiled faintly, brushing my thumb across her knuckles. Strength doesn't always feel like strength in the moment. Sometimes it just feels like survival. But when you have people worth protecting, you find a way. Her eyes filled with fresh tears, and she hugged me tightly. I could feel the love in her embrace, a love that had carried me through my hardest days. For so long, I had worried about whether I had done enough for my children. Tonight, despite the pain Daniel caused, I knew without a doubt that I had given Emily the one thing that mattered most, a mother who never gave up. Nurse Claire came back into the room with a soft smile. "Mrs. Hale, you can rest easy now. The lawyer will handle everything from here. You did the right thing." Her words were gentle, but carried weight. I nodded, grateful not just for her medical care, but for her courage. She had stood beside me when she didn't have to. Sometimes heroes wear uniforms we overlook, and that night, she had been mine. Mr. Whitman lingered a moment longer before leaving, placing his hand on my shoulder. "Margaret, your late husband would be proud. You honored his wishes tonight. You honored yourself." His words struck deep, and I felt a wave of emotion wash over me. For years, I had carried the burden of keeping our legacy safe, afraid of letting him down. Tonight, I finally felt like I had done right by him. As the hours passed, I replayed everything in my mind. I thought about Daniel's anger, his lies, and his greed. I thought about how easily he could have taken everything if I had been too afraid to speak up. But I also thought about how that moment had forced me to see the truth. Sometimes the hardest part of love is realizing that not everyone you love will love you in return. Sometimes a parent must face the heartbreak of knowing that a child has chosen a darker path. But I also saw the light in Emily's face, the loyalty in her eyes, and I understood that family is not about blood alone. It is about who stands beside you when the world tries to tear you apart. I may have lost something in Daniel that night, but I gained something greater. I gained freedom from fear, and I gained the assurance that I was not alone. When I was finally discharged from the hospital days later, Emily helped me into the car, and we drove past the old home my husband and I had built together. The sun was setting, painting the sky with soft shades of gold and pink. I looked at that house and felt tears sting my eyes. It was still ours. The life we had worked so hard to build was still intact, safe from the greed that had tried to consume it. Emily caught me staring and squeezed my hand. "It's safe now, Mom." "You kept it safe." I smiled through my tears. We kept it safe, together. That night, as I sat by the window at home with a blanket around my shoulders, I thought about everything that had happened. Illness had made my body fragile, but betrayal had tested my soul. And in that test, I had found a strength I didn't know I still had. I realized that standing up for yourself isn't just about protecting property or money. It's about protecting dignity, love, and the legacy of a life lived with honor. Daniel's absence hurt, but I knew the wound would heal. Maybe one day he would understand the damage he had done. Maybe he wouldn't. But I could no longer carry the weight of his choices. My duty was to myself, to Emily, and to the memory of the man who had built this life with me. I closed my eyes that night with a calm heart. For the first time in years, I felt free from fear. I had defended everything that mattered most, and though my body was tired, my spirit was unshakable. The greatest lesson I learned was simple. Illness may weaken the body, but truth strengthens the soul. Love cannot be stolen, and dignity cannot be forced away with lies. When you refuse to surrender, you win, even if the battle leaves scars. If this story touched your heart, make sure to subscribe to my channel and tell me in the comments where you're watching from.